Hello everyone and welcome back. So today we are going to be going through my August reading wrap up. Now, I know it's late. I know we're like over a week into September now, but I promise this is a good one because this is actually the most, I have read the most books I have ever read since logging my books, tracking my books, ever. I think I got to 13 or 14 books, which is a lot. I do have to admit that is because quite a few of them were audiobooks and I could listen to them while I was at work, which was definitely helping in that department, but I also was just reading so much when I was at home. Let's get into it. Yes, I'm in bed. Yes, I have a blanket on. Yes, Oscar Pastry is here. He's always here. If I could be like under my covers, literally just in bed, I would be. Let's get into the books that I read this August. You can see her little ears. Oh, I can't touch it, otherwise she'll start purring. Okay, the first book that I finished was Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. I think I gave this book 4 stars. Now, I was on a mission to complete Ali Hazelwood's backlog, and Love on the Brain was one of the books that I had not yet read, obviously. This is one of her STEM romances. I love her STEM romances. I don't care if they all kind of blend into one by the time you've read them all, but we love them, okay? Like, I've never had a single complaint about her STEM romance books. This one, we follow, I think the main girl was called B, and we follow her being assigned to her, rival, her, arch nemesis in the neuroscience world, to do a project for NASA, I believe. It follows them to basically discovering that they don't actually hate each other, and there's some cute things that I don't want to spoil, so I'm not going to get into, but there are some cute mini plots that happen throughout the book. Hello? There's also a side plot of anonymous Twitter accounts and them two maybe having kept contact through that throughout the entire time that they've been living their separate lives, and we find some stuff out. So that was a fun side plot. I do love that. I did eat this up, okay? I really did. It was just a fun rom-com. However, the only reason why this book is not a 5-star is because when B started to be okay, maybe I don't hate him, maybe he's actually kind of a great guy. We then it was a very one-sided hatred from B, and it was just all a misunderstanding almost, and I just find that really meh. I'm if you're going to be rivals, you both have to be rivals. You can't just have an opinion of the guy and then take that opinion with you for the next 5 years when really there was never a reason to be annoyed at this guy or think that he hates, because the entire time in the book he's I don't hate you, and she's yeah, right. If the man is telling you that he doesn't hate you, maybe he doesn't hate you. But anyways, it was still fun, but that's just kind of why it wasn't 5 stars. But anyways, next we read another romance, but it was none other than Wild Love by Elsie Silver. This book, I feel I read the Chestnut Spring series pretty close together, in one go, pretty quickly. Love it, 5-star series for me. But since then, because they're such good books, I have to pick them up at the right time. I almost feel bad just randomly picking it up because I know that I'm gonna enjoy it so much and I want to enjoy it at the right time. Does that make sense? I don't know. But anyways, I finally decided to pick up Wild Love, which I know came out ages ago, and I'm pretty sure Wild Card, I think the newest one, literally came out yesterday or the day before. But this book was 5 stars. Hands down, 5 stars. I think Ford might be my favorite Elsie Silver man. I don't know, it's just the fact that he has loved, or just has always liked, Rosie the main girl since they were both teenagers, and then when she comes back to their small town after trying to live her life in the big city and just realizing that she just needed some time back at home, and he was there for her and he helped her, and it also does Ford is a single dad, and I knew that because Elsie Silver wrote, I don't remember his name, but Cade's son in Heartless, she wrote him really well. Like, I didn't find him annoying, because sometimes kids can be annoying in books, but because I knew that she wrote him really well, I knew that she was going to write all of the dads in this series, like children, well. I didn't mind her at all. She was quite a fun character. So like I said, we follow Ford and Rosie, who they've not necessarily kept contact, but Rosie is Ford's best friend's sister, so kind of always been in each other's lives, and they finally like hit it off now that they're older. She does end up working for him, but you know, it works out. It was really good. It was so good, and the atmosphere is just always great. Elsie Silver knows how to write a small town romance, so 5 stars for Wild Love. Okay, and then I read Savage Fae, which, I'm not gonna lie, the entire storyline of the Ruthless Boys is kind of like, there's 5 books, and at this point I have 1 book left. This is the second book, I believe. Savage Fae is the second book. It's all kind of blurring into one, so I don't remember where certain plot points started and where they end, so I can't really tell you what happens in this book, and I also don't want to, because it would spoil the entire series. If I told you what happened in the second book, you'd be like, well, what's the point of reading the first book? But this is a separate side series to Zodiac Academy. I'm sure you've heard of Zodiac Academy. But I decided to pick up The Ruthless Boys in between books 3 and 4 of the Zodiac Academy, just because I was like, I might as well. It wouldn't hurt to read it that way. And I'm enjoying it. It's definitely not what I thought it was. Like, I picked it up and I started reading it and I was like, okay. And then book 2 happened and I was like, wait. But the overarching plotline, which we are still going through up until book 5, is that our main girl, Elise, her brother was murdered. So she goes to the school which he was murdered at, which is Aurora Academy, which is like in the Zodiac Academy you have Zodiac Academy, which is like one of the highest ranking schools in Solaria. And then Aurora Academy is one that falls below, and it's in a different part of Solaria, following a completely different cast of characters. And you basically just follow Elise trying to figure out what happened to her brother, and she meets and gets in cahoots with some very interesting characters, and not really much else I can say without spoiling the book. You do see glimpses of the Zodiac Academy boys in this series. I don't think book 2, I think maybe book 3. I'm sorry if you can hear the wind, and I'm sorry if you can hear my cat, she's cleaning herself. So yeah, I did decide to pick it up in the middle of Zodiac Academy. You don't have to, you can read it after, you can read it without reading the Zodiac Academy series, but you do you. If you want to pick it up in the middle, go ahead. Yeah, it's entertaining. Is it the best written thing in the world? No, by far not. Is it entertaining? Yes, and it's easy to read. It's so easy to consume, so honestly, can't fault it. And then I picked up the book club book of August from Emmy's book club, which was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Now this was my first V.E. Schwab book. I'm sure you've heard of this book. It was popular when it came out, probably still is quite popular. I wrote some notes, so I am going to read them because it's just easier to get my thoughts. Also because this was early on in August, so it's been nearly a month probably since I've read this book. But basically we follow Addie, who makes a deal with the devil, let's say. Like, a consequence of her making this deal is that anybody she meets, I didn't say what the deal was. The deal was to live forever, and the consequence of making this deal was that whoever she meets will then forget her. This quite literally means she could be talking to someone, they turn around, she's like no longer in their view, and then they forget her. So she makes this deal, she tries to go back to her parents forget her. Ever since then, every single person that she has ever met has forgotten her. This is obviously sad because it means that she doesn't really have anybody, but she does kind of learn how to make it work for herself. She learns how to use that to her advantage, and we see that through the years and years and years and decades that we're following her through the book. It was a really interestingly written book. Not only was the writing beautiful, but the way that the storylines, because we followed multiple timelines, the way that they all connect at the end was done really well. Because the main thing about the book is that she ends up meeting a guy decades later, like I think she's like 300 and something years old technically, but she doesn't age because she lives forever. And this boy that she meets doesn't forget her, which obviously is a crazy development in her life because everybody's forgotten her. I'm not gonna lie, it was slow. It was slow for me at the beginning. The ending, when we finally saw those plot lines connect, that was really good. But the beginning was just so slow. Like, it was really repetitive, which I understand because we're going through 300 years of this girl's life. There's gonna be repetition, but I think it could have been a shorter book. But aside from that, it was a good book. And like, we do follow obviously the hardships that not only Addie goes through, but because we go through real life events, we do lightly touch on the hardships of what happened during those times. It could have been explored more. Like, I remember I read Joel's review on Goodreads, which if you read the book, I would recommend reading his review. I do agree with many things that he said in his review, and I think that it could have been a good opportunity to kind of go into, you know, this girl who's lived for 300 years, the things that she's seen, the things that she's had to live through and survived because she can't die. The way that it ended was good. It just took quite a bit to get there. And then I picked up a nice little summer romance. I listened to the audiobook of Hits Different. This is co-written by Tasha, who was from Love Island, and it was on my library as an audiobook, so I was like, I'm gonna pick this one up. And this was such a fun summer romance. Like, I'm pretty sure it was set in Mallorca, somewhere beachy in Spain, where we follow the main character, Cassie, I believe, who is a dancer, and she gets the opportunity to join like this pop girly on tour as a backup dancer. There was so much well-written diversity in this book. For a silly little romance book, this was so good. And I know obviously that the intention to be a diverse book was there, and it was executed so well. The representation in basically every single character that we were introduced to was just done incredibly well. Cassie, our main girl, she's deaf, and therefore we go through the hardships that she has and the struggles that come along with it. But also we also get to see her achievements and her being able to still follow her dreams. So yeah, and the main guy was so dreamy. He was so lovely and exactly what Cassie needed in a guy, and I just think it was a really, really good, a really well-written rom-com. Okay, and then I read Vicious Fae, I believe, which is book 3 of the Ruthless Boys. Again, can't say much because otherwise I would be spoiling it all. We're still following the murder of Elisa's brother and the side characters / love interests of the Kings, which sounds so strange to say out loud, but that's what they're referred to in the books. The fact that there's so many of them, you'd think that like they'd all burn into one, but no, they're all represented differently. I don't know who my favorite is, to be honest. At first I was like Leon, but then Leon got annoying. I'm not gonna lie, Leon got a little bit annoying and I didn't enjoy his chapters as much. So I don't know who I would say is my favorite. I think I'd have to finish the story to tell you. So maybe in next month's wrap up, when I've hopefully finished book 5. The next 2 books that I read, I picked up for a 24-hour reading challenge, which I filmed, but didn't post. And I don't know if I'm going to still, because it's not the most perfect vlog, but I was like, you know what, that's okay. So we'll see if I do post that. And if I do post that, all of my thoughts of those 2 books will be in there. So really quickly, I picked up Twisted Crowns, which is the second book in the One Dark Window series, and that magic system was so cool. And like, you know, when you find a series that has a new magic system that you've never really read about before and you're like, okay, I can get behind this, that was me with this series. So I really liked it. But again, I have more in-depth thoughts in that 24-hour reading challenge, which I might still post. Oh, and I gave that 4 stars. And then I also picked up Heartless Hunter, or The Crimson Moth, whatever you want to call it. I also love this one because, again, it had dramatic. It had such good magic. The magic is like blood magic, but there's also consequences to using blood magic. Like, you are visibly scarred when you use blood magic, and using magic, blood magic, is incredibly forbidden in this world. So it makes it super easy to see if there's a witch using magic. So you have to be incredibly careful. I just really liked it, but I'm not going to go into too much detail because hopefully going to still post that reading vlog. Next, I picked up Check and Mate, again on my Ellie Hazelwood trying to read through her backlog. Honestly, she can write it all. I have zero complaints with this book. I'm just going to leave a snippet of Amon's Goodreads review on the screen because I think that sums it up pretty perfectly for the way that I felt after reading this book. And then I picked up another audiobook. I picked up One for My Enemy by Olivia Blake. This was also my first ever Olivia Blake book. And I know, like, the Atlas 6, when that came out, which I believe was her debut novel, everybody loved. But this one was available on my library as an audiobook, so I decided to pick it up. It was so beautifully written and so beautifully narrated. It's a Romeo and Juliet retelling, so you've got 2 rival families, and some of them fall in love, and there's death, and then there's also like paranormal ghosts and being able to talk to the dead, and so it was really quite an intricate book. It's a standalone. There was so much angst and longing from some of the characters, and also basically all of them are flawed, and you like love but you hate them, and it was a very well-rounded book. The only thing was that there was so many characters because both families had so many children, so listening to it was a little bit tough at times, but it was still a very good read. I read The Night and the Moth. Technically, I picked it up and started during that 24-hour reading vlog, but I didn't finish it, so I continued reading it afterwards. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what I was on when I started this, but I was crashing out reading this book, especially at the beginning. Like, I literally sat there laughing so hard because a big part of this book is gargoyles. In my brain, like, I love fantasy books. I have read many fantasy books. I don't know why, but I just can't picture gargoyles. The way that they're described, I just can't picture them being like living gargoyles either. I was just giggling because there was like gargoyles fighting, and I was like, what is going on? There was like gargoyles floating in a building. I was like, what is going on? It was a ride. And also at the beginning, we basically follow, technically her name is Six because the main character gets like stripped of her identity because she gets taken in by the abyss? I don't know how to pronounce it. See, this is my thing. There was a lot of heavy religious not heavy religious terminology, but there was a lot of religious terminology. It was also set in cathedral or a church, and I just didn't grow up surrounded by very religious people, didn't grow up going to church, so there was a lot of terminology that I was just very unfamiliar with, and I had to learn a lot. So I was a bit confused at the beginning, but that's okay. I learned something, so that's great. She gets like stripped of her identity, and she's living in this cathedral with her other friends, who is run by this abyss lady, and they're basically treated as gods almost. They drown in this very magical, almost pond water thing, and can go into the minds of whoever they've just... I am not explaining this well. I'm not even understanding what I'm saying, let alone do you understand what I'm trying to say. Basically, there's a lot of adventure, funny gargoyles, and there's romance and friendships and bonding, and it made me giggle. So I'm excited for the second book to come out. But again, I did film that, and it did film me crashing out, but I just haven't put it together yet. I might stop the things I never finished filming me finish that book, so I don't think it's worth putting me half reading The Night in the Moth and Crashing Out to it if I didn't finish it. But anyways, we're going to move on to the last book because I feel like I've been talking for so long that me trying to explain the plot isn't working anymore. The last book that I read in August, I listened to it. It was Into the Water. I don't remember the author's name, but I believe she's the person that wrote Girl on the Train, which I know is a very popular book. I have not read that book. But this book was supposed to be a thriller. It did not feel that way. It was basically set in a small town with girls going missing in this lake. It was assumed that they were taking their lives. There was a lot of history with this certain lake in the town. It made the environment of the town a little bit, you know, if you have lots of girls that are taking their lives in this certain area, there's going to be talks around town, things like that. The only thing is, for an audiobook, there was way too many characters. I was listening and then I'd go, who are we even talking about right now? And it wasn't very suspenseful at all, so it just kind of felt like it could have been fleshed out a lot more and the atmosphere could have been better. So I only gave this book 3 stars. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this book. I don't think that it did what it should have done, I guess. I don't think I'm ever going to read this many books in a month again, but we can try. So yeah, hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video.